Back to Web3 gaming. I think Web3 gaming is something we have seen in last 1.5 years. Massive uptake. I think as far as gaming platforms coming on, the public chain was already there for quite a few years. But a trend started about a year back where we started seeing a lot of publishing platforms launching their own chains. And I think Pentagon Games, again, is one such platform, which is not just into gaming, but they are also bringing the flavor of metaverse and the overall user experience. So, Idon, if you can share, how Pentagon Games decided to transition from a public chain to your own custom gaming focused Polygon CDK-based chain.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you. So just as a little bit of recap, background. So we did adopt several L2 chains. So we, definitely was a part of that. So now one of the reasons why we decided to move to our own chain, specifically is at this time, we're creating a permission chain, we're using this to support content that can be regulated for age and region. So what we actually mean by that is we're still trying to keep a decentralized ethos through the bridges. So what we're doing is we're still bringing NFTs, enabling those to come into our ecosystem once they are essentially approved for the specific rating that we're allowing them to bring in. Now, when I say keeping decentralized, which means if I need to disable or ban an item or an NFT or collection, I don't destroy them, right? Well, I don't, force to pause them by essentially move them back across the bridge. So that's kind of one reason why we have I would say it's kind of somewhere between a public to I would say semi or permission the chain environment, but still at the same time, the core is I don't want to ever be in too much control so that I can essentially, prevent or destroy assets. So that's kind of what we're trying to do. Now, a big shift for that was also moving from a pure Web3 only focus infrastructure to also a infrastructure which we can also allow Web2 people, Web2 games and stuff, which some of the bigger titles, they have a stronger requirement for age control content or region control content. So our ecosystem sort of enables support for that. So that's why we kind of really needed a separate chain of our own. At the same time, of course, the performance side is we do need more consistent performance. So which means we can kind of bar or rate each of the application that's coming in to make sure none of them is really, eating up way too much resource, which could cause the rest of the, the network to go down. Because even if you look at some of the biggest and most recent chain like Ton Network, right? A coin called Dogs came out, and all of a sudden everything congested, and Ton Network actually doesn't scale. Right? I think it was like 5-6 months ago. Solana the game was crashed because some meme coin came out. So I think a purely what you call it, a permissionless chain does run into that issue. So we're trying to balance the two. So which means keeping this permission initially so that we can roll out and with all the proper content in a regulated environment. So that's kind of what we have to work with. And lastly, we of course the ZK back security was very important that we end up picking the ZK stack over a Cosmos. Mainly because the ZK security backup to Ethereum was very critical for our choice.
Right. So I think, Idon, you have mentioned some very exciting motivations to choose or go for your own custom chain or custom rollup. So you mentioned about having permissioning or data privacy. So some bit of control, which is again use case specific, but not to centralize the system. The rollup chain itself would be decentralized, but still you would have some permissioning options. And second, you mentioned about user experience. You also mentioned about ZK-based security, ZK-based proof, which is, of course, one of the most cutting-edge technological innovation in the blockchain space today, bringing mathematical-based security rather than human-based economic security. And then you also mentioned about performance, which again I think it becomes very important because dedicated block space is required. And we have seen that one NFT CryptoKitty is launched and suddenly the gas prices are shooting up, and people are fighting with each other to get their transactions confirmed. So of course, from all these perspectives, having your custom chains makes a lot of sense. And I think you have covered almost more than 50% of the motivations that we hear from various startups, why they want to choose. Idon, what are your views in terms of selecting CDK as the stack of choice for launching your rollup chain?
Yeah, there's definitely I think there's a few reasons. I think one of the bigger one is we've been working with Polygon from pretty much day one. And actually we would aside from we within our ecosystem, we actually run two Polygon validator of the 105. So we have kind of that a natural tendency to look a lot more at the Polygon tech. When we look at all the technology over the past, I would say 3 years, we have worked with pretty much all other chains that came up, like Avalanche, Multiverse X, Sway, Solana, so pretty much across the ecosystem. First of all, I think EVM compatibility was still very, very important because I think even POS wasn't 100% compatible. So when the Polygon team came out to do ZK EVM, that was 100% compatible to Ethereum. So I think that was a major choice. I think even ZK Sync was not 100% compatible to ZK EVM. So for the benefit of the doubt, because it's not everyone fully understand all the nuances, but to guarantee everything is just going to work, then the best choice for all the program is just, well, it's 100% ZK EVM compatible. So so that was one major reason for that. So both, I would say, a technical reason, but also kind of because we've been working very closely with the Polygon team, and just that across the validation network, we know they have an excellent team, have the ability to execute, excellent leadership. So it's a combination of factors. But of course, one other thing is, because we're hearing, all these other chains adopting the CDK, right? I think Immutable X is on it, Aavegotchi is on it. I think Nia is on it. So just like, you kind of want to be on that bandwagon, especially about the agri layer, which will help with the native interoperability. So I think that's going to be a very, very, very critical part for us.
Idon, from your perspective, working with Zeeve, working with Rollup as a Service, what were your motivation, and how has your experience so far?
Yeah, no, thank you for that. So, so first of all, I think one of the key points I think Osman also mentioned is at scale, because if you are just playing around and not planning to go full production and planning to have a lot of traffic, I think it's fine running, your own chain. But expect, lots of delay. If there's an issue, it's going to take some time to figure it out and to resolve yourself. So we figured this fairly early on, right? So about 2.5 years ago, we started running an L2 chain. We got everything from the ground up, and having had lots of experience on running nodes, running validator, and then running our own chain, an L2 chain. But still, it still took our engineer, because they are not dedicated, full time. In terms of they do gaming and they do smart contract, and they try to they have lots of experience on server. Then learning how to run a blockchain infrastructure takes time, and they're not an expert to that. So when we ran into the issue like, oh, this bridge didn't work, it took days and sometimes up to 2 weeks to get certain specific things resolved. So I think therefore working with a RaaS as a service provider like Zeeve really help us to feel a lot more comfortable to say, okay, when there's an issue, we have experts which have worked on this similar issue like many, many times, right? Rather than just a single point, because you guys have seen it happening all across the, in multiple different times. So I think that's, super critical in terms of, being very serious about bringing, because at the end of the day, we're not just talking about performance of the game. Once we bring people's liquidity, there's people's money waiting, waiting to cross a bridge, waiting for the funds to be released, and that cost them, cost of capital, right? Because they can't get access to it. So to be, very serious about your whole infrastructure and that confidence to roll out, definitely, feels like they have like, a big brother kind of like, covering your back for, having to work with a team like Z. And other than that, of course, having met the both Dr. Ravi yourself and Thomas from the BD team, you guys are. I come from Silicon Valley, right? I worked with Cisco system for almost 10 years. I talked to all, the Intel, like all of the big company, the Texas Instrument, and like I just feel like these guys are serious, right? This seems like a very big company coming from a very professional background. Isn't your typical Web3 project team. So you guys really feel like, hey, you guys have infrastructure background, and so this is actually definitely the right team to work with. So I think both leadership, as well as obviously the service itself. And yeah, so far the journey has been excellent. I can't think of better partners, and there's so much stuff that we can work on together going forward as well. For those who are not familiar with Pentagon Games, so Pentagon Games, we started as a metaverse-focused ecosystem with everything under the umbrella. Recently, we have some really cool new innovative technology, which we'll be revealing soon. It's actually already been reviewed in a TV show recording called CryptoNice.tv. So it'll be a reality TV show, which will be releasing. So in the back end, we're still an entire metaverse UE5-based engine. But we have now made this entire engine accessible to pretty much any device, and it's VR capable. We call it an interactive cinematic platform. So we believe it's going to be a major disruptor. It will enable pretty much all of your browser to be using, so your typical web browser can now be watching a 360 video stream that's interactive. We kind of think it's going to be like the future of entertainment. We've been actually talking to a lot of AAA game studio, and they're excited. They're like, "Wow, what you guys are building, I have not seen before. Let's get you guys onto kind of your next cycle of marketing spend on pushing their product and feature." So it's going to replace web and maybe even replace the TV entertainment. But I think super exciting. Everything is back with everything we just talked about, which is all of these other stores and experiences. People can get all these little toys, NFTs, which is also in a regulated, age and region controlled environment. So yeah, super excited. I just want to share our social, Pentagon Games XP. We have actually grown that from, for the past 3 months, all the way from I think less than 20K to almost 500K socials between our Telegram and our Twitter. So that's super exciting. Lots of great followers. So yeah, I think it's gonna, I think it's everything working great. And looking forward to, go meet Matt and see you guys